I'm ready, yep.
Okay, okay. So it's 6 o'clock. This is the Madison Zoning Board of Adjustment on January 15th, 2025. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. George, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have, primarily we have one item on the agenda tonight, which is the application from GMR Holdings regarding a cell tower. I do want to say, due to technicality, that application is not complete because we've discovered all the abutters have not been informed and noticed. Okay, so since we have abutters who have not been noticed, we cannot open a public hearing. However, in spite of that, Attorney Springer, who is the representative of GMR Holdings, asked if he could make a presentation. Those of you who are here are more than welcome to listen to that presentation. There will be no comment from the public tonight. There will be plenty of opportunity in the time frame that we have to work this case for you to make comment, okay? So just look at this opportunity to hear from Attorney Springer to get, their perspective on the item, and then you can come back on another evening. We're not going to officially continue the case, I don't think, Kate, because you're not opening it, right? No. So
Can he be asked any questions that he can bring back? Can't even ask him any questions?
Not in the meeting. I mean, if you want to ask him in the parking lot, if you meet him, that's fine. But we're not having a public hearing tonight. We can't open that because we haven't. But you will be able to. You're welcome to listen. So with that comment, as I said, we're not actually opening this, but I will let Attorney Springer introduce himself and the project, and yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to stand over here if I can.
Then take the microphone. Yeah, just so you're
yeah.
there, right?
That way I'm not turning my back to everybody. My name is John Springer. I'm an attorney with Springer Law in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I represent GMR Holdings of New Hampshire, and we're here for the project tonight, obviously on the King Pine ski area. I need to do one thing up front. I understand the issue about the abutter list. I had a very good conversation with Tim Sullivan, the town attorney, this morning. I hope to talk to him again tomorrow or Friday. At the risk of being too technical, I'm not sure there is an abutter notification issue here, but I'm not going to argue that point tonight. I'm going to be very frank with you. I'm going to speak with Attorney Sullivan about this in further detail. I've let him know my position. If he says, no, you don't convince me, then you know what? I'm just going to go to Eaton Town Hall and notice whoever's abutting the ski property. But having said that, I felt it would be counterproductive to come here and argue about that issue with the board. I've been doing this a long time, and I've yet to win that argument with the board. So, as the chair said, what I'd like to do is give a very brief overview tonight. I'm happy to answer some questions if the board wishes that's more effective, as long as they're factual questions and not, type of questions. But I will leave that up to the board. I think it might be more efficient to do it here rather than the parking lot. But
Well,
we can play that by ear.
I'll ask the board and.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair
in a few
enough, fair
minutes,
enough. The other thing I want to say is we were planning to come tonight anyway and ask for the public hearing to be the next month anyway, because our preferred method when you have a site like this is to just give a general overview the first night and arrange for a balloon test in the interim. Get the results of the balloon test and then come back and have the public hearing so everybody can see the results of the balloon test. And for those of you who may not know what a balloon test is, they're very typical for tower sites and tower applications. We will fly basically a big red, I always call them weather balloons, 3 to 4 feet in diameter, at tower height on the property where the location is proposed. We send a crew around town taking pictures from various vantage points. We're happy to get a list of vantage points from the board if you wish. We can send a crew out there. Anybody is free to attend. Anybody's free to drive around, take your own pictures. And that will give everybody a very good feeling as to the visibility of this tower. I'm going to cut to the bottom line. We're confident this tower is going to have very, very limited visual impact. Because I'm not taking the questions anyway at this point.
Let me address the question,
Yeah.
just so that, the balloon test, I assume what you mean is a balloon is going to be placed at the location of the top of the tower, and then people will be able to observe it from
Yep.
various viewpoints.
Yep.
That is a balloon test.
Yep.
Okay, so
And
continue.
we pick a date in conjunction with the board, so everybody knows what the date is. We usually, and I'll address this later when I'm done with my 5 or 10 minute presentation, but we usually suggest that we start early in the morning because the winds are less, and then go until noontime or 1. And we always pick a bad weather day as well. And then we try to do that a couple weeks before the next hearing. Again, we'll get into this in a bit. So we have time to prepare the report and get it there. So-
Okay, so the main point is that the public has an opportunity to actually visually assess the
Absolutely.
actual visibility of the tower with
Yep.
the balloon test. That's the purpose of it. Even if someone can't be there,
Absolutely.
they will have access to photographs
Yep.
afterwards and can discuss with their neighbors.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
And what we do in the balloon test report is, we take the picture where the balloon is visible, and then we do a second picture, sort of before and after. So the first picture will show the balloon, and the second picture will show a monopole tower, which is what we're proposing. We take out the balloon from the photograph, and we superimpose a scaled representation of the tower itself. So you'll see both before and after. So anyway, we are proposing for a 150-foot monopole tower. It's on tax map 249 lot 1, which is off King Pine Road. The owner of the property is the Purity Spring Resort Inc., which owns the King Pine Ski Resort. And this is a little tight space, so I'm just gonna put this up for a minute or two. I'm gonna tilt it toward the audience, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Because these are from the plans that we submitted to the board.
So we have these on. on paper.
Presumably you have these plans, yep. And this is, just for the record, sheet C5. This is the monopole itself, 150 foot. It's what's known as a self-supporting tower, so there is no guy wires or anything like that. It's designed to carry 4 or host 4 carriers. Each set of these small rectangles at the top represent the antennas. And each set of antennas would need 10 feet of separation between the center line. So it's 10 feet from the center line of the top one down there, down there. So if the top of the pole is at 150, the center line of the first antennas would be about 145 feet, 145 feet above ground level, AGO. The next set of antennas, the center line would be 135 feet, then 125 feet, then 115. The advantage to allowing a slightly larger tower to allow more carriers to go on it is you get fewer towers in town. And generally people think that's a good thing. The base equipment area is a rectangle shape. The access is coming off King Pine Road. There's sort of a cul-de-sac, if you will, or a turnaround area if you're familiar with King Pine Road. It's a 12-foot wide gravel access drive going in. There are going to be underground utilities along the access drive. The monopole is that circle right there in the middle of the compound. The carriers, there's a turnaround area, parking area there. The carriers are going to be putting their equipment or their shelters inside the compound. The compound's going to be gravel floor, if you will, or gravel base. The compound itself is 50 by 50. We are proposing, in accordance with your ordinance, that there will be a stockade fence around the corner, around the edges of the compound, so you won't be able to see into it. The only utilities that, this type of site needs are telephone and electric, and we can run those off the existing services. There's no water, sewer, noise, smoke, fumes, or anything like that. The big issue, and I've been doing this a long time, the big issue everybody wants to know about is visibility. We submit a computer representation, if you will, of where we expect the tower to be visible from. That's in the packet, that's at Town Hall. I will be the first to say, you're okay if you say I don't trust that. I always like to rely on the balloon test as well, because that's actually gonna have the balloon in the air at 50 feet. But based on the topography and based on the location and the tree cover, we expect this, as I said previously, to have pretty minimal visual impact. I know that can be hard to believe when you hear, oh, 150-foot tower, but wait for the balloon test before you make any judgment on that. Okay, we're confident it will be a good balloon test. There are no, well, I covered that point, I guess, already. There's very little pedestrian traffic generated by this. After construction, the only traffic really is 1 or 2 trips per month per carrier by a technician in a passenger vehicle, really, going in to make sure that the equipment is working the way it's intended to work, or something like, or if there's an issue, they can fix it. The tower will not be lit. There will be no advertising. The only signage are going to be small signs on the fence identifying the carriers and the tower on. We are looking for 3 ordinances for sure. We need a height, or excuse me, 3 variances. We need a height variance. The ordinance provides that a tower shall not exceed 10 feet over the average tree canopy height. We explain this in the materials a little. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the project narrative, but average tree height, with all due respect, and a lot of ordinances have that, is not a good way to do it. And you can say, well, you're an industry shill. Here's the problem with average tree height. You have 4 trees or 3 trees at 100 feet. You have 1 tree at 20 feet. Your ordinance requires every tree over 20 feet to be in the average calculation. The average height of those 4 trees is about, whatever it is, 70 feet. The canopy is at 90 feet. And usually, on heavily wooded properties, the number of trees that are, say, 20, 30, and 40 feet high far exceed the number of trees that give you the true canopy at 80 or 90 or 100 feet. So averages, when you average the tree height and say you can go 10 feet above that, very often the permitted height doesn't even clear the trees. And that's important because this is a line of sight technology. The antennas need to be able to see, and I put those in air quotes, the handheld instrument, either your phone or your laptop or whatever you're using to communicate. See in radio frequency terms doesn't necessarily mean strict line of sight, but the radio frequency waves do get blocked by trees, pine trees in particular. I'm not a physicist, but the length of pine needles and the water content of pine needles are such that they do a really good job of blocking radio frequency waves. Buildings can block it. Topography is a killer. This northern New England, northern New Hampshire has very challenging topography, and that will block the radio frequency waves as well. So that's what we're dealing with when we're trying to figure out how high to go. That's how the 150-foot height was determined here. But we are asking for the height variance. We're asking for a variance from the fall zone. Well, the fall zone required to be tower height from all property lines. And we are also asking for a variance from the requirement that all ground mounts be of a mast type pole as opposed to a monopole. A mast is different than a monopole. They look the same, but a mast is is thinner, it's not as structurally strong, and on a mast, you have to put the antennas on top of one another. The send antennas and the receive antennas have to be on top of one another inside the pole, which limits the number of carriers who can go on a pole. And so masts are very rarely used. This is not the only ordinance we've had, we've seen where we've had to ask for a variance from this provision, but visually, we don't believe there's to be a lot of difference between a monopole and a mast. The town CEO said we might need a variance from the section that provides a telecommunication facility shall not be visible above the ridge line from public roads. We don't believe it will be. The balloon test will show that, but I would also say, as we say in the written materials, it's not clear what ridge line the ordinance is talking about. And when we point out in our materials the two ridge lines that we consider to be true ridge lines, the top of the pole, considering the height of the monopole and the starting ground elevation, does not exceed those ridge lines. The other one is that a variance provides that no antenna array placed upon a proposed ground mount shall have a diameter of more than 4 feet, exclusive of the diameter of the mount. And the CEO interpreted that, I think, I spoke with him, he was a very nice gentleman. He was talking about the antenna mounts on the pole and not the antennas themselves. And this is, again, not the first municipality that has this provision. I've always interpreted it, and with all due respect, other communities have interpreted, that's talking about the antennas themselves, because what you're trying to avoid is big microwave dishes up there, not panel antennas that may only be 2 feet wide. If you're talking about the mounts themselves, the language says exclusive of the diameter of the mount. So I'm not sure we need that variance, but I'm just spotting it here. So that's my brief overview. I'd be happy to take legitimate questions from the audience if the board wishes. If not, I'm happy to wait until we do the public hearing.
Well, let me ask the board, what's your pleasure? Now, we have,
That's not true, sir.
okay, hold on a second.
That's not what I
Spoken a
said.
lot about
I have a point of order.
Hold on.
I have a point of order to
Why-
ask the chair.
Yes.
You posted this as a public hearing. There are people that have come up from Massachusetts who bought this property, people that live in Rhode Island, they came up here tonight to talk, and you won't let us speak.
I'm
That-
sorry,
and
I'm
you
sorry,
let the
we
presenter
cannot
speak.
proceed with, we
Why were they
cannot
not
proceed
notified?
with the public hearing without
Intentional?
butters being notified.
No, it wasn't.
Well, why wasn't the meeting
It's
canceled?
unusual.
Well, we can't cancel a meeting that's already been noticed.
You
We-
know, Kevin,
You have effectively done that by not letting people speak. That you've effectively canceled the meeting. Any
Well, no,
inconvenience in that
I'm going to, a point of order here is that these proceedings have a shot clock of 150 days from the time, well, as determined by the attorneys, when the application's actually submitted and complete. That is the time frame in which the public is also able to make comments, right? So you're not being denied the right to make a comment or ask a question in the process of these hearings. But we're not able to open a public hearing this evening because we have not properly identified all of the abutters. So I'm sorry for that. We made an attempt to inform people who were traveling a long distance that we were aware of. Okay, that's the best we could do. However, I mean, you have been presented some information about the project. Does the board, strictly by procedure, we don't take comments from the public. Regular board members, do we have, what's your pleasure? Allow technical questions or not?
Why is there not an answer?
Okay, no?
I don't think at this time that it's prudent to do that because there are individuals and there are abutters who should be privy to those questions and allowed the opportunity to be here to hear those should they choose to. And yet, because the abutters were not notified properly, they don't even have the chance to be here. So I think that it's important to respect their rights as well as everyone's rights. What I would what I do suggest is, having taken this opportunity and heard the presentation, I took notes so that when we do get to the public hearing portion of this, you're well prepared to ask, you know, pointed questions so that we can get to the answers that you need.
He only went over certain things.
Correct, and there'll be an opportunity to review that, to review the entire application later.
When we have a public hearing, you will be able to ask questions without limitation. And actually, I've heard from 2 board members. George, do you?
I agree with Sharon.
Okay,
with,
so that's 3, which means that we will not have questions from the audience tonight. I know that this is an emotional thing. The reality is that we can't do that, Mr. Springer.
Yes, I just want to make clear to everybody, it's not the board's fault that the abutter list is off, okay? Now, I'll be the first to fall on my sword. However, it's my responsibility, but what I did was, I went to the town website and printed off the abutters list. So, I printed off the abutters list from the town's website, and that's what went out.
There's 2 towns that about that.
I understand that,
So
but,
it is your mistake, right? That's what you're saying?
well, it's my responsibility, sir. I just want to make clear, it's not the board's
He's
fault.
assuming your gender.
I made a phone call yesterday to get this answer so that we could come and have an open discussion. And no one got back to me, so why didn't you talk to the lawyer so that when tonight?
I am the lawyer for the applicant, I don't know.
Well, who did you say that you were?
Excuse me, we shouldn't be having,
That discussion.
interaction.
I
Okay.
just want to make clear, it's not,
No, I appreciate that. The technicality
A lot of
is
people's
that,
concerns aren't about the height. A lot of people's concerns aren't about the foot traffic. They're
Excuse-
concerned about the long-term health conditions of EMF and all that stuff in people's backyard. That wasn't even brought up.
excuse me,
I'm sorry,
We're
but that's
not-
bullshit.
Right.
no, we are not shutting down public comment on the case. We are not opening a public discussion tonight, okay? So with that, I would like to,
Mr. Gentile, may I say one thing, just because this is a technical point, if you're noticing people,
mhm.
the noticing mentioned the tax map 249. Lot 1 is on 249 and 248, and the impacted area is not on that tax map in the notice. It's actually on this tax map. This is lot 1 here, and it's right here in the middle of this neighborhood. So that's perhaps if the notice has to be redone, mentioning that the tax map that shows the impacted area is actually 248.
There are 3 levels of engagement in this. One is a highly technical one, which is abutters are defined by the New Hampshire RSA, someone whose property abuts directly on the property which is there. Then there are people who have standing for an appeal, that is those people whose property is affected by the thing. Those people are not technically abutters, have the right to speak in public meetings and have the right to appeal any decision by any board. And then there are general members of the public whose property does not necessarily fall into those 2 categories. In most cases, those people are also permitted to express their concerns. So our technical question tonight was about specifically the abutter. And with that, what I'd like to do actually is draw this section of the meeting to a close. I'll let Mr. Springer, I mean, you're picking up some of what's going on in the audience.
Right.
If you wish to address any of that, go ahead. Otherwise, we will close this section of the meeting.
I will wait for the public hearing.
Okay, so with that, we will continue this public hearing, well, we'll have opened the public hearing as planned. Assuming
say
that
no
we
noise,
get
but
everything,
are there
it
generators
would
that
be
run this
noticed,
power
it
out?
will be noticed for the February meeting.
Do you want to pick a balloon test date?
Do we want to pick a balloon test date?
Yes.
Sure,
Yeah, we're all here.
we're all here, we might as
So why
well.
Except for
doesn't the
Jake.
balloon test, why doesn't the balloon test
Not
have the
entertaining
diameter of the
questions.
whole tower?
It does.
It does. The diameter of the tower won't necessarily exceed the size of the balloon, the diameter of the balloon.
Okay, so, Kate, are we in a position, can you
Look at a calendar.
look at a calendar and,
But you're limited by the weather too.
Well, we pick a bad weather date, yeah.
All of February is.
That is,
bad
we
New Hampshire.
we pick a date and we
Bad
pick an
weather and low
alternative date.
visibility.
But no wind.
We wouldn't want a low visibility
Okay.
day.
When is your next?
I'm sorry, can I ask the audience to keep it quiet? We're being recorded, and we need to be able to hear each other and talk to each other.
Attorney
Thank
Springer, do you post this balloon testing?
We can post it. I can send you a notice that you can post around town.
Okay, that would be good. I
Yep.
think that's a good idea.
Yep, I will do that.
Okay, so are we in the process of choosing a date and an alternative date? As you say, a bad weather date, we don't wanna choose a date with bad weather, we want a date as an alternative, I assume that's what that means.
Mr. Chair, would you please tell us the next date of the meeting so we would know too?
The next date is February 19th, right?
Yep.
That is the third, the
Wednesday.
third Wednesday of
Third
February,
Wednesday.
19th,
Yeah.
right?
So we want to.
At 6 o'clock, we'll be here.
Do you want to aim for the last week of January? This is the 15th.
Sure.
Um,
29th, 30th.
Maybe, would you prefer a weekday or a weekend?
It's kind of crazy to do a balloon test at the height when they haven't even got the variance yet, right? You haven't even achieved.
No, this is
No,
all,
that's-
there
this is
is a
in
whole
preparation
series
for
of
the
issues that
variance.
we need to address, so information is our,
This is important to the variance.
yeah.
You want to do a weekend?
I prefer not to.
I'd say a
No, let's
weekday.
do it during the
Weekday,
weekday,
okay.
yeah, because this is going to be, pictures will be taken, they'll be
Yep.
posted, so
Yep.
let's do it during
Okay.
the week.
Do you have any days you prefer?
As soon as possible.
Well, as soon as possible, and the town's offices are closed on Friday, so, Kate, what is the best day for members of the town?
Monday's a
And-
holiday.
What's that?
Monday's MLK.
Monday's
Well, I
a
wouldn't,
holiday.
I think next week's too soon, because we gotta get the
Yeah.
sender.
Then I would say either the 28th, 29th, or 30th. January 28th, 29th, or 30th.
Do you wanna say the 28th for the balloon test and then a bad weather day on the 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, Kate, does that work for you,
30th.
as far as you can tell? What day of the week is the 30th?
The
Thursday.
28th.
Thursday is 30th is the Thursday.
Right, so that's
28th is
Tuesday and Thursday, okay.
Excellent.
Okay, so so then,
Time of day, you said
do
you
we,
prefer morning?
Kate, do we have a technicality in terms of the time, something like that would have to be noticed? Are we okay on time? That's just an administrative issue within a,
2 weeks.
within we don't, I mean, as a courtesy, we want people to know when
I
it is.
just asked him if he was gonna send me something so I can post it.
Right.
Balloon testing, so people.
Do we have
Well,
a-
do we have a
time
formal
requirement?
requirement for it to
No.
be posted? Okay.
I was gonna post it
I
on
can-
the, when he sends it to me, I'll put it on the website, on the ZBA website, I'll post it here, I'll post it upstairs, and I'll post it in the Madison Post Office and Silver Lake Post Office.
We could
Okay.
also put it on the town's.
That's what you said, on the town
Facebook.
ZBA.
No,
I'm
Facebook.
not, I don't do the
She's
Facebook
like-
thing. I don't, I stay
Okay,
off
but
there.
if you-
I know.
Okay.
Is there a start and end?
Is 7:30 too early, John?
Not for us, it won't be.
You wanna start at 7:30?
Sure.
AM.
All right.
And
Where-
then go through noon or 1?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock
At least.
Okay.
At
on
least.
both days, yeah.
I may have to bag her.
Well, it'll be one day or the other. isn't it?
Yeah, one day or the other.
One day or the other,
You
okay.
get a bad weather day, high winds or something
Right.
like that.
Or low
Gotcha.
visibility.
Do you
Okay.
take written comment as well?
Absolutely.
Uh,
I have
Yeah,
a file folder, so.
Take written
yes,
comments?
Yes.
we take written comments, yes. Okay, just as a general comment, if you have concerns, you may submit a written comment, and of course, it's always best if it relates to a technical or scientific issue, if you can submit a document that supports the viewpoint, because opinions don't help, but documentation of your viewpoint is extremely helpful. And by documentation, I mean actual document or a link to an actual document, not just generally to a website. Because what happens is there's 25 documents or 150 or 500 documents on a website. We're talking about a document. Okay, so with that, I would like to draw this discussion to a close.
What was the date?
The 28th, Tuesday the 28th from 7:30 to 1.
Or bad
Or-
weather.
Or bad weather day would be Thursday, the 30th, from 7:30 to 1. And you may watch on the websites, you know, for information.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Where shall people go or
Gather,
meet?
where do we
Gather?
meet to start?
Go anywhere they want.
You can stand at the top of Foss, you're gonna get the best possible view.
I'm just asking.
Well, that's a good, are there if,
There are.
I don't mean to step on his toes.
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, if there are viewpoints that you would like covered in the balloon test,
There are.
can you provide them to me, or have Kate
Mhm.
email them to me tomorrow or Friday? I mean, if there are, you know, any particular places you want a picture from.
Yeah, I'm interested in the viewpoints from the ridge line, when you were saying, you know, from the road, that you made a point earlier
Right.
about what you could see from the public road.
Right, 153.
So whether you're on 153, whether you're on 113, whether you're on East Madison Road, I think there's some key points there. And I'm not
Okay.
riding my bike in this weather to tell you where they are, but I think there are some key points for
Okay.
those to be viewed at, very public places like the
Route
road.
153, what was the other route? I know it's.
113 and East
113.
Madison Road.
In East Madison Road, yeah. I
East
mean, those
Madison
are-
Road particularly, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
153 and East Madison Road create the Y that goes around, you know, King Pine. And of course, 113,
You
I
won't
doubt
see
that
it
you
from
can
there.
see
I
anything
doubt
from
you'll see it from
113,
there.
yeah.
I'm just throwing it in there. 'cause
Okay,
it
no, sure,
creates-
absolutely.
Yeah,
What about
and then the
Foss
top of
Mountain?
Foss Mountain, which
Foss
is,
or,
is a long way away and it's in Eaton. but-
You won't get there right now.
right, yeah, Foss
That's
Mountain,
true.
probably not gonna
Well, you
get
can
to.
hike in.
However,
Cross country.
Rock House,
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially from Rock House Mountain.
yeah.
How far away is Rock House?
Right up the
3 miles.
Yes, a couple miles.
And I
down.
think it's really important to have a viewpoint actually from King Pine.
Oh, sure.
The main parking lot, see what you see from there, and from Milt's.
And the what?
Milt's, the two
MILT.
parking lots of King Pine.
Okay,
To see if you see it at all from there, to be honest.
okay. Any other comments from the board?
Will these pictures be coming,
They come out a report.
Yeah,
Okay, so
there's gonna be a
that'll-
report
that'll come at the next meeting, just so I
that
know.
will, that will
I just
be
wanna know
provided
what
before the next
timeline.
meeting. It will tell you where the photographs were taken,
Just so I know.
address, and
Just
then.
so I can-
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Just, yes.
May I ask a question? Just wait for these guys.
Oh, ask your question.
It appears there are folks from other towns. Should we include in that balloon test, public roads across the street from the Purity Springs? There's several roads up on that ridge with homes
Freedom.
up there. Not, well, it's Freedom
Eaton?
also, but I'm thinking about Eaton.
Yeah,
Should that be included in the balloon test?
views from those towns, it's
They're
freedom.
directly, they'll be looking directly at the cell tower.
So what you're saying is,
From
to answer the
Ladder Road.
question.
Did we
should
notify the town of Eaton? Wouldn't the town of
I
Eaton
did.
make that decision
I
as to
sent
whether or
the
not they
certified
wanted?
What about
It's
freedom?
not in Eden, it's in Madison, up on Madison Hill on the left.
No, it's in.
Freedom wasn't
Ladder
on
Road.
road.
The road is Eaton.
Well,
Send everything.
as a matter of courtesy and procedure, we should inform Eaton and Freedom that the balloon test is being made, and if they wish to have a photograph from a particular site or two, that they can inform you, Kate, and you can be in
Yes.
touch with Kate, or they can inform Attorney Springer directly. Point is, there's no point having a balloon test if people don't have the opportunity, you know, to
Right, to view the
to
outcome.
view it, right,
Yeah.
so.
And will we make the balloon test results available on the website,
Whose website? Ours?
the town's website?
Well, that's why I was going to this.
Sure.
I don't know when the report, when you know,
That's it.
that's why I was asking.
I understand.
Where that's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it needs
so-
to be in a timely manner prior to the meeting, it can't just turn up at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Right, I
They need,
understand.
people need to have an
So if you do
opportunity to
the,
view
if you
them.
do the balloon test on the 28th, how long does it take you to
Right.
prepare the report?
That's good, I don't do it, I would hope that it would take a week or less, so that we could get it to you a
It's
week
usually
before.
1 to 2 weeks, the engineers flip it around, so.
You're talking 19 days, so that's just about 2 weeks until the next meeting.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, that would
That's
be in time for the next
Yeah.
meeting comfortably.
So clearly we need it ASAP. so
Sure,
that
oh,
it's
absolutely.
going to the
Yep,
public, yes.
absolutely, yep.
Okay, and then, Kate, there's no problem with us posting that, right, making it available on the ZBA site, right? Once,
Yeah, how many pages is it?
Well, I don't know, I mean, it's usually,
That's the other question.
I mean, it's usually,
10 pages.
you know, 10, 15 pages maybe.
well, it's a PDF, as a PDF document.
I can email it to you in PDF.
That's perfect.
which,
Yeah, I mean,
you
if
know,
it's a megabyte or something like
Right,
that,
no,
or two,
it's-
that's, yeah,
I'm
okay.
thinking
I mean-
150 or something we had.
No.
Oh, no.
And you can use Dropbox or something like that if the file's too big and you just send you a link to it.
Okay, so, other questions, comments from the board? Mr. Springer, do you have
Nope,
anything
I
else?
have nothing else, thank you very much.
Okay, then we're going to call this section of the meeting to a close. We'll take a very short break for those of you who wish to leave. You can excuse yourself, and those of you who wish to stay for the administrative portion of the meeting, feel free.
STR shit.
I'd like to see these documents together, just.
Can you give them to Linda? Oh, Linda, Kate, sorry. Can you give them to Kate, right there?
I'm the judge is all my lawyer, so I always.
I know it's frustrating.
They submitted it.
Thank you.
Good night. So they submitted it.
At least you're not here till 10:30. We weren't last night.
Does have.
We weren't last night.
See you, Dave.
Wasn't Donna be there? She did say it was like.
Oh, yeah.
One question I didn't ask, doesn't really involve the public, but one of the questions is, do we want to exercise our right to have a third-party engineer provide us a report on this item? And the answer, the question is asked of the main board. I personally think that's a good idea.
Sounds
I agree.
The cost is borne by the applicant. The applicant is aware that we may ask for that, and there is a provision for him to provide that into escrow. So the point is, I'm just asking the board's pleasure. Do you want to exercise our right to have a third-party technical?
You should do that.
Yes.
Okay, you're
Yes or no?
technically an alternate, so I'm asking.
I'm
the-
technically an
Oh, yes,
alternate.
I'm sorry. you're
You
right.
should do that, not now.
This is an administrative section of the meeting, it's
We're
a
not
public
actually
meeting,
here
it's not a
today.
public hearing, so.
I'm chopped liver, so.
You're chopped liver, so, do you
Yeah,
you think it's a good?
I think this is gonna go beyond our meeting, and it's gonna get in some situations we're gonna need to have a third
Okay,
party.
so, and you think?
And I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, so Kate, yes, we will pursue,
I
and,
will,
and,
send an email out in the morning
okay,
and get that ball rolling, and I'll send one to Attorney Springer and let him know that we'll be looking for
okay,
funds to put in escrow account.
okay,
And an independent review, I mean,
right, and,
sorry, I'm not sure I meant to even talk about this.
yeah, but we have several sources of getting that, independent, for example, our attorney will know
Our
someone-
attorney,
Our
yeah,
attorney
okay.
will know somebody who is not engaged with the company
Yeah.
to make a recommendation, for example, yeah. We will obtain that.
Good.
Okay, now, on the couple of items, again, this is a public meeting, not a public hearing, but I do want to make a couple of comments regarding the status of the existing cases. Technically, we have 3 cases at the court right now. One decision was decided, that is case 2313. 2313 was, the Artisoni is the name. It's in Edelweiss, and the question was whether or not they were, whether they have, what do you call it, grandfather status. Okay, the court decided against the town and will remand that case back to us.
Is that what the ruling was, Joe?
The court,
'Cause the court said, the appeal didn't remain back to the ZBA, it said,
You did.
it did, okay, so I thought.
yeah, well, they reversed the decision.
reversed the
They
decision,
reversed
that's
the
right.
decision and remanded back to the CBA.
Okay.
Right, which means that we have to review the court case.
Okay.
Formally. Okay.
Yep.
So you'll have to be, excused from that point of thing.
Let's do this.
So the next question, now, at this stage of the game, technically, for the record, Mark is recused from this discussion and Bill is recused from this discussion because they were recused from these 2 cases.
Would
Right?
you like us to sit in the audience?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Each elevate
Make it right.
Just makes it clean.
Makes it
Get over
clean.
here on this side,
Yeah.
on the fence.
So-
Do it on my side.
So okay, now, we have this case that was reversed and is remanded back to us. And I want to, and so the question always arises, do we want to appeal that case? Okay, I'm going to ask what the board's pleasure is on that. The Board of Selectmen informed me verbally that they do not wish to appeal this case. I've reviewed the case, the letters that came in, as well as the court documents, and I agree with the selectmen, I don't think that we have much of a chance that
I'm an alternate, so look at me.
although weren't you raised up for this particular, or is it Jake who was? Okay, well, that's okay, we've got 4 people here, you were involved in that.
I was.
What's your pleasure?
I probably agree. My problem is, is this going to set a precedent for future cases?
No, every case,
I understand.
every case is decided on a case-by-case
I
basis.
understand.
That is the fundamental orientation of our assignment.
I have a question for Doug. Are you asking whether or not this sets a precedent for us or for the court?
For us.
For us, I would say no.
Well, okay,
Because it's
let me
its
go
own
back to
matter.
his question, because this is what do you call it? An appeal of an administrative decision. The way we choose to act with respect to the merits of an individual case will all be determined, they have to be handled consistently. So that does set a precedent. But if by precedent, do you mean, are we always going to not appeal a case? No.
No.
So are you
I'm
referring?
more concerned about party C referring to parties A's win, and we are similar, so we should be
Treated the
covered-
same?
Treated the same as party A. That's what I'm concerned with.
Well, okay, I understand what you're saying. The answer to that question goes back to every case is considered differently because every case has slightly different. However, to the extent the cases are consistently in the same class, then we are basically obligated to make a consistent decision. However, it is technically dependent on the details of each case, right?
Understood.
Right. Okay, so you're
Yes, I'm fine not appealing.
not appealing. I'm fine not appealing. How's your?
I struggle with this because having read through the court decision, I don't agree with the court decision. Personally, I think that there are issues with it, but I understand it's the court's decision to a certain extent. I don't see enough in our ordinances to overcome, even with the input that we've received, I don't see enough to be able to overcome what that court has decided.
Well, the court really didn't decide anything.
Well, I mean, what their opinion was,
Instead of
based
back
on
to
their
us.
opinion, right. Their opinion based on our definitions and things of that nature. I don't see enough
Wait.
weight.
Okay,
So
you
I would not appeal.
Not appeal, okay. So, the deadline runs out on Friday, so,
There's that too.
we, as a board, will basically stand behind the select board in not wishing to appeal this case. Okay, now, we have two other cases that all fit in the same, that are stayed at the court waiting for this decision, and, I've asked our attorneys to consider a voluntary remand so that we could consider those cases in light of this decision, so that we have the option to either strengthen our case or withdraw them to pace. I mean, that's a public hearing issue.
Right.
We can't predict the outcome of that, but the bottom line is that in light of the court decision, we're
Request that
looking
we
for
roll
a voluntary remand for those cases so that we can review them.
Rehear them.
Do I hear?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yes.
fine.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's where we're going with those cases. Like I said, this is a public meeting, not a hearing, so we're not gonna discuss the merits of these cases, but you're aware now that all three of those cases are coming back to us, okay? They will all be re-noticed and we will have to rehear them. You have a question?
I just have a question with regards to the cases that are continued. There's, I don't know, 8 of them. I think 4 of those properties have been sold. Has the attorney said anything on that? What he's gonna do, or?
Those cases have been, no. We, what we will do with those cases is that we will, the attorneys will talk to each other and suggest a course of action. They may be withdrawn. If they're withdrawn, then they become irrelevant. But at the moment, we have 3 cases that are in litigation, and there are 9 other cases that are pending. Okay. Okay, so with that, do we have any other, I don't think we have any other business regarding that. Okay, so we continue on with approval of minutes and things like that, so Bill and Mark, you can come back.
With regard to October's minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
This whole, and it's not your fault, don't
Oh, no,
get upset. This whole first,
I rewrote that.
because I'm like, I don't understand this paragraph, and I was there.
No, I actually intended,
the one on that's on the page 2 that starts at the top, Gentile stated this property has a long history.
Oh.
That's the only thing I understood, Mel.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff.
Well, what's happened is, well, I can see exactly what happens. Kate's taking notes and writing
Oh,
things,
yeah.
and things get doubled, and then she
You
just
gotta
typed it up, and
put
she's got 100
dot
things
in
going
that
on.
very
Yeah.
first line.
So,
It stated that there is a particularly that the board needs.
so I went through that, and I could suggest a reading to this, and I could actually just send it to Kate. I can
That'd
read
be
it here,
great.
and I'll send it to Kate tomorrow, but let me tell you how I thought I would, and if you want to approve the amendment that way. So, starting at the top of page 2, Gentile stated this property has a long history in which there have been at least 3 previous requests for a variance. This would not be a problem, except the first case was denied in 2006 and was taken to court. Unfortunately, that court case is not on record here at the town hall, and it predates the electronic court cases, so we could not find any record of it. Gentile further stated that the board can presume that the town won the case because the owner of the property submitted a new variance request in 2008, and the request was sufficiently claimed a material difference. That variance request was granted but expired. Then in 2022, this board considered another request for a variance. But due to Kim Sear having cancer treatment,
Can I time out there?
yes.
I don't think we should use her name. I think
Okay.
we should use whatever the position title was.
Okay, great.
And I don't think we should mention that she has cancer treatments. I think we should just say
Okay.
due to
I
illness.
just took
Yeah,
what was.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's why we have these.
Just do
Right.
illness.
Just to say due to,
Due to
word
illness.
that would be,
Yeah, well, or we can just change that entirely and
absence.
say,
Staffing issue.
you mark it up and send it to me.
yeah, well, okay, but no, the board needs to hear what's gonna be
Yep,
in the
that's
record
fine.
Due
because
to a
they,
staffing issue.
what's that?
Due to a staffing issue.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, due to a
Perfect
staffing issue, the record was not brought to the board's attention. Gentile further stated that the board did approve this variance request. And they were
I have a
skipping a
question.
lot of stuff there. What?
Which variance request?
Okay, the
Because
one
we have
from
lots of-
2000, the one,
yeah.
the third, the
The
2022.
So I think you should say, the board did approve the 2022 variance request.
Okay, the 2022.
Because we had to use this a lot. and
Right,
which
right, the
this or
2022
whatever.
variance request,
Just
right. And then we skip a whole bunch of that stuff and pick up again. Gentile stated that this is the middle of the page,
Yeah.
4 lines further down. Gentile stated that he believes the board needs to go on record having decided about the history of this case because it's complicated. We do not have a complete record of the court case. Martin asked the board if they need to consider this 2024 application due to material changes or whether we can rehear the case that just expired. Gentile stated there is a denial on record that the board needs to address. I stated again, we believe the board should determine if there is a material difference and on that basis be willing to hear this 2024 variance. Otherwise, the board could dismiss it because there is a record of a denial and it's complicated. Well, we can just, because it's a denial, take that out.
It's complicated.
Okay. Martin stated he would have to assume that the zoning board back in 2008 was acting under the same process, that they would not have heard it again unless there was a material change. Gentile stated that the specific sequence was case 0604 was heard and the zoning board denied it, period. The basis on which they denied it is irrelevant and it's only the fact that it was denied that's important. There was a request for a rehearing which the zoning board denied and denied, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And it went to Superior Court and the Superior Court acted on it, or at least we have the certified record that went to the Superior Court. Can't find the, whoops, excuse me, I didn't quite get that far. It went to the Superior Court. End of discussion there. We cannot find any record of what the case, of that case. And, but we can presume that Mr. Ettinger, who owned the property at the time, lost the case because he came back with another variance request shortly after the court case would have been decided in 2008. Okay, and that paragraph there, Schilling stated that in the file, there may be findings of fact as to material difference in the new application versus the old application, which warranted them to be able to do this. Gentile stated the question before the board. They find a material difference. Gentile asked Young if she had the decision letter from case from 2008. Young stated she found a decision letter dated August 19th, 2008 for case 0802. Martin read the decision aloud to the board for the record. Gentile asked Young if she had the minutes from the meeting, and she did not have the meeting. Okay, so anyway, we pulled out the thing that, I think the rest of it works out pretty well. Setback from center line roadway, et cetera, et cetera. So then we motion pass unanimously that we have a material difference. Okay, so then I think we're fine.
You'll send me that.
I'll send you that change.
I just listened to you.
Well, I know, the thing is that, yeah, I mean, most of the challenge there, Kate, was simply that because you're writing fast, there's just an awful lot of duplication of phrases.
That's, yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
so I'm just basically cutting out those duplications and making periods. So if the board is in agreement with that general, I'll just type it up and send it to Kate tomorrow. And I mean, you don't have, just a nod if that's okay here, we'll go on to the rest of the minutes. Okay, so any other amendments to the minutes?
If we go back a page,
Okay,
at the top, very top of that page, that says Gentile stated.
Page what, two?
Page two.
Yeah, that there is a technicality that there should be the word "the board" needs to address before they open the presentation.
He's gonna have to send that.
Okay.
That's in that paragraph, correct?
No, well, it's in the paragraph above it.
Very, very
Okay.
It's
first.
the first line on the top
that's
of
all
the
right,
page.
I'll include that in what I send,
Okay.
yeah. Just because otherwise you won't have
The whole
any
thing.
reference for where we are. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Other amendments,
Page 3,
page 3.
in the paragraph after the setbacks, Martin stated that this was originally for a 20 by 42 bedroom home. Gentile stated the only issue for the board is that we need to make sure that we consider that the case was denied.
Oh.
Take the word "was" out.
Yeah, I got you.
That the case was denied.
Gotcha.
Further down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines down. Starts with line of 53.6 inches instead of 75. This requires a variance, and that is also a material difference, not also a materially difference.
And spell check doesn't pick that out?
No, it won't.
I'm sorry.
2 lines down from that, where it says, difference between this application, change the word "this" to "the," difference between the application being case 0604 and the one presented tonight, which is case 2406. Gentile stated he would like a vote from the board to go on record as to if the board feels that there is a material difference, instead of what.
Mhm. Okay, so we're good there.
And then the rest of the page is good from me.
Any other amendment suggestions?
On the next page, I'm not sure. I
Page
have-
4?
Page 4, yep. The top paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 lines down. 3/4 away, it starts with setbacks.
Mhm.
They do comply, although technically there's no buildable envelope.
Hold on, where are we?
5 lines down, starts with setbacks,
Starts with setbacks. Top paragraph at the top of the page,
page 4.
Page 4.
page 4. Are you not finding it?
I'm not, but you know what? I've been here all day and
It's
haven't had a
the-
break, so
It's the fifth sentence.
I'm seeing double right now.
It's amazing that you're actually alive knowing something about what's been going.
I'm pooped right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where is he? Mark?
5 lines down,
We're
It starts off page 4, and the first paragraph is Gentile stated the line
No,
itself.
page 4 starts with Richardson went over the dimensions and stated that the distance they are requesting a variance.
Page 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're on the wrong minutes?
I was.
Wrong set
but
of
I had-
minutes.
I'm sorry.
That's the right
Gotcha.
month, the wrong minutes.
Okay,
I
now
need
it'll
to-
make
I need a
sense.
break, that's exactly it.
Right now it'll make sense.
Yep, I follow you.
Fifth line down, setbacks, they do comply, although technically there's no buildable envelope on this lot, and they are further than the 25-foot setback from both sidelines, and from the left sideline 62 feet, and from the right sideline 78.5 feet. What are we trying to say there?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
You're asking me now after I haven't even started 5 minutes today.
Right? Help me with what we're
I'd
trying
have
to
to
say.
go back, so
Okay, let's just put it together. Okay. As to the deck, the closest side of the deck to the reference line of Silver Lake is 53.6 feet, right?
Right.
Is, take out everything up to is.
do what? I was going back in my
The
notes.
line that starts with side of the deck to the reference line of Silver Lake,
It's 2 lines above that. 2 lines above
As
this.
to the side setbacks, they do comply, although
no,
technically
no,
there is no building.
I'm on the line above
before
that.
Fourth line down, side of the deck.
That's to the deck.
Side of the deck to the reference of line of Silver Lake, right?
Right, take out they are looking for is, take out they are looking for,
4.
is
Oh, they're looking
53.6
for.
feet.
Leave is, okay.
Yeah.
Leave is.
The side setbacks comply.
Yeah, get rid of as to the side and they.
Just put the
Just put in-
side setbacks
Setbacks do
Side
comply.
setbacks
comply.
comply.
So, they don't even need do.
Although technically there is no buildable envelope, okay, gotcha.
I would think you would put a period at the end of, though technically there's no buildable envelope on this lot.
Period.
Yes.
Period.
And then you can take out,
Start.
and they are further than 25 from
Yeah.
both sidelines. Forget that, we already,
It's
already
already
did all
stated.
that.
Take out that whole sentence.
yeah,
And
we
all
don't
that
need it.
sideline 60.
All the way to
78.5.
78.5.
Yep, gotcha,
Yep.
Right.
okay.
And it would be similar to the last application, not similarly.
Right. Richardson further stated that similar to the last application.
Still not great English, we know all that.
No, it's not good English.
Okay.
And then the only other correction I had is at the last paragraph that starts with Dempster.
Yep,
You go 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. It said would be wood built, and the footings would be sonar tubes. They're sonotubes. One word, S-O-N-O. Otherwise, they have a submarine going through their
sorry.
And the tower, probably, yeah.
So S-O-N-O-T-U-B-E-S.
Again, spell check,
I will not catch that.
I know.
'Cause it's spelled
And
correctly.
I read through them, but sometimes it's
Yeah, no.
I spelled
Well,
really late
yeah,
at night
it's
when I'm
Sonotubes,
reading these.
S-O-N.
But it- unfortunately, it doesn't
S-O-N-O.
meaning check.
Is it really?
Yeah, sonotubes.
Okay.
I checked.
Okay, so any other suggestions
That was,
on other pages?
the only other thing I had is to check on the, on page 6, paragraph 3, after the second line down, at the end of it says state of New Hampshire, and then there's a big emptiness in the line.
Oh, just drop down the
Yeah,
line.
just drop
Yeah.
that line down, and I think that happens somewhere
It's
else.
probably good.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
just
you need it.
because there was a
Extra line.
extra
Yeah.
line.
Can I ask you if you, I like this font much better, does everybody else agree?
Which one? The,
This
That, yeah,
The dark one,
Times
yes.
Roman is what I've been using, but I like this better, I think it's clear and
Yeah.
I can read it better, but I don't know about anybody else.
Sure.
Well, I'm in all
I'm
kinds
fine
of
with it.
giggles,
Lot
so.
better.
that's fine.
Okay,
Yep.
because I'm using that on the planning board too, so I changed it up a little.
Sans serif is always good.
On page 7, the first real paragraph, Gentile asked the board if they were ready to make a motion, and
Yeah.
that they would also need to include the conditions previously discussed. Martin asked if the board wanted to, oh, I'm sorry, my arrow is in the wrong place. Gentile stated the conditions would be to obtain, I thought we talked about approved permits from DES. I know it's kind of a technicality to
No.
add the word approved.
It's not.
Yeah,
I can put it-
if they
I
get the
mean-
permit, it's gotta be approved.
You would think, yes, I mean, normally,
Sometimes
It could be conditional.
It could be conditional
Okay,
Right.
It's approved, still approved.
or temporary.
You don't think it would be understood?
Yeah, good point.
I just don't want anybody to miss.
Permits for the DES.
I think
I mean, wouldn't they be,
I think most people would understand it, I don't want anybody to misunderstand it.
okay,
And I
Do you
think
want
it
me
just
to put in
adds,
the word
either,
approved?
either or,
well,
It's the
but-
consensus.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Fine.
fine.
It's a word, go for it.
well, the thing is, the actual motion, which comes down, 8 or 10 lines, specifically says, findings of fact with the following conditions that,
yeah, I have approved and approved in front of those too.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
Approved permit from DOT and
Yeah.
approved permit from DES.
I see. Well, I think it's
Redundant.
superfluous because the point of having a
Redundant.
permit is that, but if you want to, I don't object to adding approved.
Okay, I'll add it in.
This-
And 1, 2, 3 too, Sharon?
Yes. On both of the 1, 2, 3s.
and that would go by the next motion down as well, yeah.
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 Got it. Okay.
Anything else?
On the very
Yep,
last
there's
little
another line
paragraph,
in that
there's
reference.
just this sentence stuck in there that says Schilling as young. I think it's comment by Schilling to Young
Oh, what?
to correct the spelling of the applicant's name
Whoa,
from.
whoa, hold on, page.
Where is this?
Page
very-
7.
Page 7, bottom of the page.
Very last
Oh, okay.
sentence.
Schilling asked.
Schilling asked, yeah,
Yes. And the
Yeah.
next page I see there's a wraparound line too.
right, but further down that line, it says spelling of the applicant's name from Sirpen to Sirpien, or however you say it, instead of for.
Yep.
Yeah, and then on the last page,
Yep.
there's a wraparound line.
Yep,
Other than that,
that's whenever you've had me.
Okay.
All right,
Motion
that's
to approve the minutes as amended.
so motion,
Second. Okay, all
all in favor?
favor?
Who's second?
Wasn't there?
Bill Dempster seconded.
Okay, so, okay, now I think we still had, we have the November.
November minutes.
The November minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so.
You don't get to vote.
Okay, Sharon, you were there once, you supervised
do.
them.
I have nothing in the elevation of alternates, and I have nothing in the motion line. In the paragraph that starts, Schilling stated that since no one was present tonight for the short-term rental cases, if you go 3 lines down, Schilling believes that, take out this portion, and just, and the comma, just say Schilling believes that because Attorney Johnson had requested a continuance, yada, yada, yada.
Can I just comment on the way this just sounds weird to me. Schilling stated that since no one's present tonight for short-term rental cases, and normally, if there were people here for short-term rentals, she would have flipped the agenda had the variance case go first. That doesn't actually, I don't know what, you would have, the tense is wrong though.
I would have, because the variance or the.
You stated that.
Yeah, no, I understand, it just, I don't know, okay, that's fine.
On the very last line,
Yeah.
where it says of those original short-term rental cases that are before the court, I took out the word that.
Yeah.
Just had, it is important to the outcome. On the next page 2, I have nothing until Martin, the
Yeah,
4th
well,
paragraph down,
yep.
Martin stated, there's 2 that's, take out one of them.
I'm not drinking Bailey's in my coffee.
Right?
Although I should.
Probably, maybe you need more.
No coffee.
No, right, nothing on page 3
Just
that I
whiskey.
have, and the only thing on page 4 that I had is the 3rd paragraph down. Schilling stated that at this point, we need to amend the motion to state that this is the, insert the word the, last
Oh,
time.
gosh, that was,
That was-
you bring back down bad memory lane on this whole
Sorry.
set of minutes. Gotcha.
You're on page 4, right?
Yeah, oh, right here,
Oh,
Yeah.
Schilling
right
stated,
there, too.
yeah, you have
Yeah.
Young.
Well, I have Young stated the board could have continued these cases a month.
No, that's
2 months.
paragraph
That's the
earlier.
paragraph prior.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yeah. These cases a month or 2 months and not to February. It doesn't read right.
Doesn't read right, does it?
Young stated the board could have continued these cases
For-
either a month or 2 months.
For a month or two?
Either okay, instead of A.
For a month or two? I don't know. What,
Or-
Young stated the board could have continued these cases.
By,
A month
by
or
a
two.
month.
As she
And not
believes
to
the board, as she believes the board has the option. There we go. That's, so Young stated the board could have continued these cases for a month or two and not to February 2025, as she believes the board has the option to do that.
Okay.
That's good.
That's how she.
Take out the word months after two. So
Yeah, a month or two.
that these cases a month or two and not to February.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Mark's shaking his head. Are you confused?
It's Conti.
Anything else on that page you have?
Down, and you might have done that under, the third paragraph, second line. I'll read the whole thing. Schilling stated at this point, we need to amend the motion to state that this is the last time that a continuance will be granted. And that should there be that, again,
And maybe it be another continuance for any reason?
yeah,
Additional, another, yeah.
As, that should there be another continuance.
Another.
Another
Change A, the word A to another.
continuance for any,
to be another, okay, good.
Okay?
Yep.
Anything else on that page?
Comment to a period after motion, just so we all know.
Yeah.
I have nothing on page 5. Oh, page 6, that chart. It's missing a row that's above dues and pubs to tell us what those columns are. What are those columns?
That's what Linda gave me, she gave it to me in her board doc, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm presuming
Yeah.
the $200 is the 2024 approved, and the next column of 78 might be what the 2024
Yeah, what are
expended
they?
is.
I'll have
But-
to, yeah, I'll have to ask her, she sent it to me
Yeah,
in the board
and then
doc.
there's no totals down the bottom of the
Bottom right.
first two columns,
On the
so,
bottom right one.
and on the last one.
Yeah, I don't, she sent me that in the board doc, cause she actually pulled that together, so I will check.
Didn't we have that in the other minutes? I guess
In last,
not.
no, we talked about.
We talked about it. but
We talked about the, yeah,
Speaking of, while we're talking about, just so you're aware, because we did cut the legal line, just be prepared that it may be quite large because of this new attorney, just so you're aware.
oh, for the cell tower thing.
Yes, yes.
Why would that cost us more money?
Say again, Jennifer, I'm sorry.
Why would that cost us more money?
Why was it,
Why would it
What
cost
cost?
us
if
more
we have to go
money?
to court?
Right.
Oh.
Well, I'm just saying that he is,
Oh, and plus he's not our,
right, and
He's not,
so,
yeah.
there are retainer fees and things that we'll have to pay
He's very
to.
graciously charging us $2.35 an hour, which is
Pretty good.
pretty good price.
Yes.
For a lawyer?
And not
Yeah.
asking for a retainer. And he's also willing to, because their engagement letter, talked about paying by credit card, that's what they usually look for. But I explained to him that I actually do the billing and paying the bills, so he would be sure to get paid, so they're okay with me making sure that when I get their statements, they're paid, so.
Okay, so
Just to
really,
give you a heads up.
and all we'll have is $5,000 in that
I'm
line,
hoping that
in the legal fees line.
we stay there, but I just wanna give you a heads up, I don't
Okay.
know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, since we're gonna have effectively 2 attorneys in this year,
That are
because we
gonna
had.
pull from that account, so
That are
I
pulled from
just
that account,
wanna
yeah.
lay that out there on the line, just so everybody's aware. If not, doesn't come at me and yell and scream at me and say, what are you doing? So,
Right. Okay.
I can keep you, as I pay them, I can give you a running tab each month as I pay them, so you know where you're at if you
Yeah, that's
want.
probably a good idea, just to let us know, because, until we get through this remand business,
Yeah.
and we get through the,
Oh, we have
questions
to
of
vote
cell
on these
tower.
minutes too. so-
What's that?
We have to vote on these minutes.
Oh, I'm
November
sorry, yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry.
I make a
we got off
motion,
track.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as amended, November 20th minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Andrew, you abstained because you weren't here.
Yeah, I was.
He wasn't here.
Nor was I.
Yeah, that's right, Doug, you're abstained from.
Okay?
I'm abstaining you from the other one as well.
Yes.
So do we,
We missed you.
do we have any other administrative business we need to take care of? Thank goodness.
I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't think no, we're good. We talked about that before, so we're good there. I'm good.
So how do we address next month? Who goes first?
Yeah.
Well, as, there's a question, of course, as to whether or not the court actually gives us the
cases
The other
back,
cases.
right? And technically by our procedures, the chairman has the prerogative to set the agenda. So we can discuss the order in which we take those things. You know, my point is that there's not a required sequence.
Take the short ones first.
Yeah.
Take the what?
The short
The
ones first.
Are there any?
Yeah, I know. When do we?
Right.
Two.
Well, we're likely to need to take there'll be a lot of discussion, on cell towers.
And that shot clock on that shot.
We'll need to get that one going, right? And so the easiest thing, frankly, would be is if the court drags its feet and we can deal exclusively with, the cell tower next time.
I have a question. Given the number of people who were here tonight, and if short-term rentals are on the agenda to deal with those, we can't fit people in here. Do we ask to go to the,
Well, we can
That's
ask.
And wait and see.
vacation
But if we
week,
think-
so I
if
don't
we-
know.
you what?
Yeah, that's school vacation week on the 19th, so I'll have to find out.
But if we think one of those cases is gonna go on too long, we have to move on to the next week because we have a time limit.
We have a time
Sure.
limit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if we
Well,
think cell phone's gonna go on for 2.5 hours, you move short-term rentals.
I think it will.
Yeah.
That's a pretty angry crowd tonight.
Yeah.
How,
And I got news for you. Just me alone, I have 16 questions for them, so.
So do I. I
Right.
know.
Yeah,
I know.
okay.
So,
Jennifer, what were you
I
gonna say?
just have one quick question. How do we address questions that we aren't really qualified to answer, i.e. specific health? Because obviously that's gonna come out. People are gonna start being concerned about the health impacts of the tower. The visual impacts, that's well within our
Yeah.
realms of knowledge and capability.
Well, that's where the variances come in.
But-
We can deal with those, but
Drew,
when the
But
health part.
how do we, because
I
I
think
feel.
our attorney is going to address the board.
Right.
Okay.
We will be having a meeting with our attorney.
Yeah.
Before
And he-
the
Before
February meeting,
before the
that
February
same day.
meeting. Yes, probably
I
the
just
same
need
day.
to firm it with him.
So the bottom line is that, of course, one of the biggest challenges that is for the public, are the health issues.
Mhm.
But of course, from the court's perspective, that's one of those issues that is almost impossible to deal with, so we.
I agree, but they're gonna expect us to deal with it.
and hopefully we'll have discussions with our lawyer regarding how to address that and how to deal
As an
with it.
administrative, how to address it, not
Yes.
how to
Right.
answer the
Yeah,
question.
right.
Administratively,
But
how
how
do
to
we
basically
address
say,
that?
sorry, can't answer that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, because that's gonna get people even more riled if they have big concerns. And none of us are obviously in a position to answer them unless someone has a profession I didn't know about, that's in the realms of. But they're still going, it's gonna be part of that heat. The height of the tower, the size of the tower, that's in our wheelhouse. We know how to deal with shapes and
Right.
sizes and measurements and how far from the road, etc. How many trucks are gonna go up King Pine Road, 8 based on this description a month. But it's all the other things with a lot of acronyms that are gonna come flying around, and it's how do we administer that? Because that's
Yeah.
where it's gonna get really emotional,
Yes, and,
in my opinion.
well, that's one reason why, the shot clock is 100.
Attorney Sullivan I asked him to pencil off in his calendar to come on the 19th, to be here, present, and he's going to come, I'm gonna try and get him to come an hour early to talk in a non-meeting with the board.
Okay.
Right, yeah, because we need to know, it's a question of procedure.
Mhm.
Like you say, we need to know procedurally how we address
Right.
those questions. And how then we order them in terms of weighting them for, for the decision. Now, of course, procedurally, what happens is we go through the process of the hearings, we collect the information, we close a public hearing at some point in the process, and then we will debate. And make our decision based on criteria which we establish in the process, some of which is, of course, given to us in the structure of the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
At this stage of the game, of course, we are neutral.
Yes.
We don't have the information yet, and so the combination of getting the information and understanding how that information is processed. Of course, there's some framework that the law, shall we say, I mean, that we have to decide within the framework of the law.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Do we have the ability to rebut the comments that the public makes?
Well, when okay, just to go through the overall perspective of how this works is that the public is given, will have to be given a framework. Like I said, for example, we'll let real abutters go first and allow people who have pro and presumably there are some abutters who are,
Again.
most of them are probably con, but presumably some will be pro. We let people speak on both sides. We can limit the amount of time that they have. We can ask that if they don't have something new to add to the argument, that they don't just come up and keep repeating the arguments. Then we can go from abutters to people who have standing, like I said tonight, and then we go from there to people who are part of the general public.
But my point is, the gentleman that was there was clearly concerned about EMF radiation on
Oh, yeah,
folks.
that's what he stated, yeah.
And right here, cell phone towers have no indication of any cancer from the American Cancer Society.
Well,
So
also
we
the
could-
World Health, but you can go any direction, Doug, to find different reports. I have 2 reports in here that
Got
I
a
printed
couple.
out, and they read whichever if you wanna find that it'll kill you, you can find that. If you're gonna find that it doesn't do squat, you can find that, and they're all reputable papers, you
Well,
know?
okay, but from a procedural perspective, it's not
Right.
our job
Right.
as a board to rebut the arguments of the public.
Yes, good.
Right, so
Basically,
what we
we
do is
hear
we
you.
take the testimony, we record the testimony, so to speak, and then once we close the public hearing, then we debate among ourselves. And you can decide at that point that this argument
You can bring
holds
that up.
water, this argument does not hold water, and then we decide on the board, as a board, whether we
Yeah.
grant the variance requests or not. Also there are some procedural questions, I mean, they're asking for a variance on specific items, and some of the arguments which will be presented will not be relevant to
Okay.
the requests which are being.
Right, they'll be over there somewhere, not to do with that.
Right, I mean, we haven't heard the testimony yet, but of course,
Mhm.
those things we are allowed to say, well, that doesn't address the question we're being asked, for example, how high can this thing be? Well, to be honest with you, how do you put it? What do you call it?
Ordinance?
The ordinance itself was based on boilerplate wording which was created after the 1996 Federal Communications Act,
Okay.
right? So there, as he alluded to tonight, there's some technical things that are slightly different. It's like, what's the technical definition of a mast? And is
And a
that,
monopole.
and a monopole, is that even relevant today? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Or that's why we're asking for an engineer to give us an independent position. He may say, well, that variance request is valid as far as the ordinance is concerned, but actually the technology has gone on beyond that, so this is why,
Yeah.
you know, you should not be overly concerned about that aspect of the request, you know, because it's formally there. You know, I mean, that's what the expert is there to tell us, that
Right.
that's, you know, it's a formal part of the variance because that's the way the ordinance is worded, but, you know, that it's actually.
And we have to stick with what's in
the ordinance.
Yeah, we can't quote Supreme Court decisions made in 2020 or whatever.
Right.
No, unless, of course, the ordinance is ambiguous on that point, and the court has determined that's, I mean, so, and that's why we have an attorney to tell us that, and that's why we have an engineer who will inform us that, for example, like I said, a question like the height issue, you know, I mean, that's, we'll get data on that, you know. He may after assessing all this stuff say, well, you know, they're being conservative, that's actually a very reasonable height, or no, they could do it and be 20 feet lower, you know what I mean? And we'll have to deal with that as we get it, you know what I mean?
I do have a question about process. I found it sort of weird to me, I guess, while the ordinance requires that they get planning board approval, that they came to us first because they felt like, well, if we don't get the variances, why go before the planning board? But I also have the other thing, if the planning board doesn't approve the site plan, why am I giving them a variance?
Well, maybe Mark could address that, but my opinion on that was that it came to us because they went for a permit. They didn't get a permit, and so it's a natural process to come to us. Now, it does have to go to the planning board, but I don't know if that's written in concrete as it has to be that way.
No, it's written that
It's
it's
written
gotta go to the
procedurally.
planning
No,
board.
It does,
the fact that it's a sequence doesn't mean that it has to be in that sequence. I mean, it says, or does it, Mark?
And I don't know, but the planning board, they can address the things that a site plan would address. They can address the things a site plan.
I'm sorry, they.
The applicant can address, you know, setbacks, screening, stuff like that. But I don't know if they can address all the things that they're requesting variances for.
No, I think this is even before we get to the site plan. As I understand it, and I read it, it states that.
Okay, just to be clear, we're talking about whether or not he should be going to the planning board
First.
before
They come to the zoning
board.
Because it states that applicants seeking approval shall first evaluate existing structures for the sitting of the facility. Only after a finding that there are no suitable existing structures shall a provider propose a new ground mounting facility, which is what this is. So it gives in section C and 1, 2, and 3 what has to be done, and the burden of proof is on the applicant, and they must show that there's no other option except for this new tower.
And that's what I believe the planning board would have helped them address from a site perspective. There should have been no reason for them to go seek a permit until the planning board approved the fact that
There's no other site in
there's
town.
no other site in town where this could go.
Yeah.
So I think they ended up putting the cart before the horse. They shouldn't have asked, they should not, in my opinion, they should not have been asking for a permit to do something that the planning board hadn't approved yet.
It's interesting is that this procedure here is also listed in the 1996 Telecommunication Act. And trust me, I read all 388 pages.
God bless you. There's no
And
way.
but it's mentioned in there.
Well, there's a sense in which, you know, they were attempting to address that question in documentation. Now, I'm just simply saying that the question still comes down to, so I asked Mark as part of the planning board.
Well,
do you see that procedure as actually, are they out of sequence here? We haven't accepted their application yet.
No.
Okay,
Because it's
So-
not complete for one thing.
Right, so we could,
Bump it right to the planning
we
board.
could bump it back to the planning board. Now, we're not we're discussing
which
this,
section
the
I'm talking
public
about,
is
Mark?
not here, but
Huh?
we are in public.
That'll piss
Do you know what
people off.
section we're talking about, the procedure?
That we're
is written-
discussing
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
that they,
It's on
they
the
all
second
left and
page,
we're
it's,
now.
6.3.
Yeah, but
It's
we're
an
not-
administrative
We're
point,
discussing
though.
it privately.
But we're on
Yeah.
public hearing.
We're on
And it's an
public.
administrative point that we're
Yeah.
discussing,
Right.
a procedural point.
That's what I'm asking, a procedural point, is this what's procedurally required to be done?
First.
And get something to play where it says, yes, there's no other site,
Hmm.
here you go.
Now can we look at it and see if it's okay?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now is the site appropriate for what they wanna do?
Yeah, because the planning board said, yeah, you can use that site. Now we have to see whether.
Right.
It could potentially come back, we give the variance, and the
And the
planning
planning
board
board look at it and go,
says-
you can't put that there. Yeah.
Yeah, they come back and say, well, you didn't look at this, 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 and this, the existing sites, so therefore, we're not gonna approve it. I mean, it's kind of backwards, but it seemed clear to me
No, you're right.
when I read
I
it.
agree
An
with you now.
interesting point.
They did
Okay.
an awful lot of work.
Okay, so let's, okay, since we have not officially accepted the application, we can ask, the trouble with momentarily with asking our attorney is that our attorney has no experience with our town. Does, excuse me, Mark, who represents the planning board?
Attorney
Yeah,
would be,
is this Cordell or is it
No, Carrie Roman.
Carrie? Well, what I'm wondering was, do we need to
I read
have
that.
the attorneys, our attorney talk to the planning board's attorney and determine whether, I mean, it's a valid question whether we're following a proper procedure,
Right.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
As a planning board person, Mark, because I think you would have to recuse yourself from this anyway, because it's gotta go to the planning board at some
then
point.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself when I get to the planning board, because this regulation was in the planning boards because of me.
Oh,
Cause I was gonna put a tower on top of the hill, we got a building permit and started doing it, and the town said, oh, no, and so they were all in a tiz, and so we added this, and I wasn't on the board at the time.
so you have to recuse yourself from both here and the planning board?
Well, you make the call.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
but-
don't know.
Oh, that's an interesting question, I mean,
But,
you,
yeah, I mean, you can look at this, but is there an existing structure if they want?
No. There's nothing there now. Trust me, I go in there all the
Yeah,
time.
there is nothing there.
There's
No,
nothing
no,
there.
but is there an existing structure that they could use? We don't know, because they haven't,
No.
they haven't presented anything to the planning board to say, we looked at this site, we looked at this site, we looked at the poles on King Pine, or, you know, to see if we can just attach an antenna to the top. We don't have any of that information. But I believe that that's pertinent information that the planning board would need to look at before approving a site plan to say, yes, this is the site that we can look at to put a structure in.
And then we deal with the variances.
And then we deal with the variance,
Right.
if there were any required,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
because I don't know what the planning board might caveat and say, well, you can put a tower in, but, you know, you gotta,
Well,
it's gotta be
yeah.
bigger than 50 by 50.
right, well, in
Whatever they
principle,
would say.
in principle, yeah, so the planning board would,
So if we
Look
were to
at-
kick it back to the planning board, just to simplify this completely,
Yeah.
everything we said to these people about the 19th that were sitting in here, they're all gonna turn up and it's not gonna be talked about
well,
again.
no,
Well, we could notify
that
them.
meeting hasn't been officially noticed,
Okay.
Right.
right?
Okay.
And so what happens?
I'm just trying to not wind the
Yeah,
crowd
but
up.
we did
even
not,
more.
we did not continue,
No.
and we
Right.
have not accepted the application.
Okay.
So it
Is-
would be courteous of us to inform people
Yeah.
that due to procedural issues.
If that's what we're gonna do.
Right, if we, yeah, we would have to tell people, but,
Yeah.
we did not, as in legal terminology, we did not continue this to a date certain.
No. But they went away with, under the impression that on the 19th of February, they're gonna be able
Well,
to
they
come
did.
back and
Right,
talk
they
about
did.
it. And I
Well,
don't
they're
think
gonna be
that was
looking
a
for the
mis-
balloon results, and I think by then we might have a decision as to whether or not we're gonna go that
Right,
other
then we
route,
can
and
bring up this
put it
point
on the-
about well, it's actually gonna go in front of planning first.
Right, we
if
could put
that's
a
where-
notice on the website, we could put a notice out to say.
So,
this has
okay,
been
just out of
reviewed.
curiosity, when does the planning board meet next?
We meet the first Wednesday.
The first Wednesday.
So,
Yeah.
the first Wednesday of
So
February.
actually, so if our attorneys talk to each other and they determined that it was necessary to go to the planning board first, that the planning board could put it on the agenda.
Be fast, but yeah.
Well, I don't know
Yeah,
that they
next
could make a decision.
I don't mean the planning board would be fast, I mean getting the submittal for the plan, you know, I mean, they'll have to do
Well, it
stuff.
would be,
They just put that one.
They
in
just,
front of
yeah,
them.
just move the stuff.
I'm not
along.
worried about them, they've got, they're the, they do.
They're the ones, it's,
If
Yeah.
you read what's required,
I'm just wondering if it is enough.
it's gonna be a
It's
fairly,
an incredibly poorly written, or, this was a, we don't want cell tower ordinance.
well, whatever the case may be, Mark, it's what we're,
what
this is
we
what we're
have,
dealing
the
with
town
right
voted
now.
on it, and this is
The
what we have.
town voted on is what we have. What I'm saying is, what's required in here, there's letters and communications that have to be submitted to the planning board before they can make a decision. So it could get long drawn out.
So where are you reading from when you're talking about the ordinance?
This is section
From a-
6.3,
Of the ordinance?
the ordinance. It starts off on section 6.1.
District regulations, the existing structures burden of proof.
Yep, yeah, and it goes along with 6.1 D and E.
It says something about encouraging personal wireless telecommunication services to provide a blanket coverage for the town of Madison,
That'd be nice.
not just nearby corridors.
Well, I think, well, the existing structures burden of proof. The applicant shall have the burden of proof that there are no existing structures that are suitable to locate wireless. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it would seem to me that that should be a relatively, I mean,
There are no existing
that
structures.
doesn't mean that there's nothing out there.
But
Well,
6.4
There actually
D.
are some houses on that circle, at the top of King Pine,
Right,
on the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
circle.
no, they're talking about existing cell structures or
Oh,
power
well,
structures.
yeah.
Well, but they could stretch to the, but I doubt that the size facility they're talking about could be mounted on a house, you know, I mean, I know people
No,
have put.
and there's also all the lifts, and they have a lot of, I mean, that's the top of the hill.
Yeah.
I ski up there all the time. But they're not at the top of the hill. Where they're talking about is literally at the top of Slow Pokey Pine. You know, it's, you don't get any higher at King Pine except the lifts when you start to come around the other side of the hill.
No, I understand, the point is they've, well,
It's really a procedure, as I see it.
It's a
procedure. It's a procedural
So you wanna dot the I, cross the T.
And
Right.
6.4D says, if you have a ground-mounted facility, which this is, a wireless telecommunications facility involving construction of a ground mount
Yeah.
shall require site plan review and be subject to the provisions of this ordinance.
That's not ambiguous.
so in site plan review is normally taken
By the
by the
planning
planning board in advance of, yeah, is that right? No?
Now, before that, it does say, in 6.4, it says wireless telecommunications shall require a building permit in all cases and may be permitted as follows. Well, it's not an existing tower, it's not a reconstruction, it's not an existing structure, so you go to D,
Yeah,
ground-mounted
ground-mounted
facility, which says shall require a site plan review. So to me, that read as, okay, in order to get this building permit, I need a site plan review.
Which is planning.
Or you
Which
go-
is the planning
Or
board.
you get a building permit, it gets denied, then you go to get the site plan review.
Right, but you don't come to us.
Right.
And you have to look at existing structures first.
And maybe in theirs they have, I haven't studied it.
Well, I was gonna say, the existing structure issue is probably the simplest of the whole issue here, because they obviously went through and they looked at all the existing towers, they looked
Yeah,
at
because if they could
places.
stick something on something, who wouldn't, I mean.
Well, an existing structure can be something other than another cell
Yeah,
tower.
house.
It can be it could be
Yeah.
the
water-
Eden Church steeple.
Could be
it
a
could
water
I
tower.
understand, yeah, well, it could be the top that lifts the structure.
Well,
I mean, I-
Yeah.
right, but my point is that that's a technical question, and that is in principle very easy to answer.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a
Yes.
procedural question here.
Right,
And the question is, they need to go to the planning board, because they might be able to come to the planning board in 10 minutes and say, well, this is the only option, and the planning board might agree to that, that it's the only option.
Then it's tick in the box and we're done.
Well, right, but that's the question. So I think, here's what I'm gonna suggest, that we ask to have the attorneys from the planning board and our attorney talk to each other and determine whether or not this actually needs to go to the planning board first. We have not accepted the application.
right.
So let's, Kate, can we do that? Okay.
And can we have this specific section and questions answered? I want to be attorneys when they answer the question, not just the site plan, but address this particular issue.
Okay, this particular issue being,
Only after refining no suitable existing structures shall they provide a ground mounted facility. Do they have to get that done beforehand, and it's named off in C and 1, 2, and 3? Does that have to be done
What
first?
section? 6 point what?
6.3.
6.3C in particular you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So, because then it goes to 6.3D, ground mount, if the applicant demonstrates that it's not feasible to locate on an existing structure. And like I said, that might actually be a very simple thing to do in this
Yeah.
case, because there are not a lot of structures up there, right? But then this, as Sharon says, then it goes to 6.4D, and it says then it has to have site plan review.
I see it's two different views by the planning board. You have the existing towers, if there's anything.
Well, if they don't have to be towers, it's just
I'm just
any
saying,
existing
any
structure.
structure.
It is
There's a-
two questions, I don't think it has to be done necessarily in 2 meetings. I mean, but you're correct, it's 2 questions.
It's 2 questions, and sequentially, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, okay, so I guess, Kate, does that make sense? We have those 2 attorneys talk to each other and determine whether, so that, to be really clear, the question is, does 6.3C have to be processed by the planning board first, followed by 6.4D before the zoning board of adjustment can address the question? Okay, so we've got that clear now.
Okay.
Okay, we
Thank
can
you.
ask the question, have the 2 attorneys speak to each other and determine whether that's necessary, and if it's not, then probably one of us, ours, needs to give us a justification for proceeding as we are.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a sticky one.
It is a sticky one.
You gotta make sure you wanna go down what you should be doing.
Right, no, that's right. So, are we, I've suggested that, or, I mean, so.
I think.
Yes.
Oh, we're
Okay.
good, yeah, it's fine.
Alrighty, yeah. Okay,
Move to adjourn?
yeah, I'm ready to go home.
I was here till 10:30 last night. I motion we adjourn, there being no further business.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned, good night. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. I was so happy.
I think that anybody that's got a cell phone in their pocket has a clear conflict